Thanks for staying with us. Members of Parliament's ad hoc committee probing allegations of criminality in the criminal justice system were left unimpressed by a confusing and sprawling statement presented by a witness during public submissions on Wednesday. Now, the committee has been hearing evidence from the public. However, the testimony of Peladi Majwalo, who claimed to be a victim of a high-level cybercrime conspiracy, was met with frustration by MPs. Majwalo, a former mechanical engineer at Anglo-American, alleged that she had been the victim of relentless harassment orchestrated by former CEO of Anglo-American, Themba Mkhwanazi. For more, we are joined by Professor Jacob Mofokeng, Department of Criminology and Security Science at UNISA. Thank you very much for joining us, Prof. It is late, so we will try not to keep you too long. Now, I spoke about Peladi Majwalo and, her admittance, essentially, that her information about the security company belonging to a CEO came from TikTok friends. In a parliamentary hearing of this nature, Prof., and with the power of subpoena, as we've also been hearing this week, what is the legal standing of social media hearsay?
Well, good evening, Nompumelelo, and good evening to Newzroom Afrika viewers. It is very important, then that's why evidence leaders are appointed to be able to do infiltration or, checking of information that has been submitted by witnesses so that, the issues of hearsay should be, be minimized so that it cannot at a later stage bring some, civil or legal, challenges towards the state as well as those who make that kind of submission. So it is very much important that a hearsay evidence should be treated as such and not really be afforded opportunity where we understand that those that are coming before, as the public as well as those who have, some substantial evidence to submit to the ad hoc committee should have credible information so that certain individuals who will be named, should not feel like, the ad hoc committee took just information, that has got no substantiation. So it was very much important that for Peladi to be able to be interrogated, to check, the veracity of that particular information, because information that is on social media cannot be treated as a valid information unless if we know that, people like Petrea Mashile have, make submission to social media, but eventually she came, to be able to provide with, information as well as provide with the evidence. So it is very much important that whoever comes before the ad hoc, should first be verified whether, is it a credible information? Because then if then you had the information from the first person and now you are submitting that kind of information like what Peladi did, then the ad hoc committee should be very careful in to entertain that kind of information.
Prof, I wonder what this says about then the vetting system by the committee if they are to allow submissions and evidence from witnesses such as Peladi.
Well, there are processes within the ad hoc committee to be able to do vetting, and so that a person of Peladi should not even have to be allowed to make submission to the ad hoc committee. So it could be some of the lapses, that we have witnesses on the functions of the ad hoc committees, but it was also supposed to be the senior counsel, but as well as other, legal representative of the parliament should have, either, flag that to the chairperson to say that, a person of that caliber is not supposed to be afforded the opportunity. So we can see that indeed there will be some mistakes, but this mistake should be tried to be, curtailed to a minimum, because it is very much important for the time as well as the audience given to these particular individuals that not wrong people should supposed to be afforded that kind of opportunity.
All right. I mean, we heard testimony as well pertaining to the poisoning of some senior SAPS officials. How significant then is the Dotieni testimony regarding General Mafazi? If a parliamentary committee officially records that a top general was assassinated via poisoning, does then the SAPS have any choice but to reopen the 2021 inquest?
Yes, they have got no choice. They're supposed to open inquest, so that then the body should be exhumed, and post-mortem should be conducted, because it is very much essential, that whatever allegations that we have had, so we need to be able to be, taken into confidence to say that the submission made by this particular witness to say General Mfazi, to us, identifying that kind of rot within high-ranking officials, then eventually he was poisoned and the COVID was used as a reason for his death. So it signifies that indeed there is a very serious, challenges within, the high-ranking, officials, even though, people like Patricia as well as General Khumalo indicated almost 80% of members in Gauteng might be working with criminal networks. So maybe we cannot really rely on the percentage, but we can understand that the majority of individuals, even those that are, having strategic positions, are, compromised to such an extent that they will do anything in their power to eliminate whoever might tarnish or maybe, bring that particular rot in the public. So it just shows how dangerous the environment is, and we look forward in terms of both the recommendation by the Hard Oak Committee as well as the Madanga that, we have to see, the system being cleaned, certain individuals, with adequate evidence that has been submitted. It has to be tested, of course, and such individuals, they don't deserve, to occupy such offices.
I mean, you speak, Prof, about the infiltration of criminal networks within the SAPS, and that just gets me thinking about how an investigation that is reopened from 2021 posthumously would look like. The NPA has indicated this week, along with the SAPS, that there have been suspensions from information that has come from the committees as well as the Madlanga Commission. But talk to us about the mechanics then of an inquest being opened so many years later.
Yeah, remember what the witness provided to us to say that immediately, where General Mfazi, body collapsed, and then, there were individuals who tampered with that kind of a place where, then his blood was, cleaned and documents were seized. The question is, who are these people? And if these individuals are on suspensions, then the inquest has been opened, and indeed, then it will be found that something was done, so that the poison can, be traced. Then these people should be, arrested, and they should really face, the might of the law, and then they should be dismissed from the service. And it is so much important that it is normally that those that are of senior ranks, they also mentor the junior members. Then it is for this, the rod to be cleaned, we need to also to check, the kind as well as the scope of those that, are alleged to have, participated in this kind of, corruption, as well as, the murder of General Mfazi, the people around them, so that, you remove them, whereas those that are left behind, they will continue with the road, because normally junior members are being mentored so that, based on blind loyalty, they are appointed for promotions. Remember the case of Witness F, to say that, he applies several times for promotion, but he was never considered, even to a point where he was told that either he will be killed or he will never have promotions. But look at those that are being groomed so that they can take this bait. And so it is something that, the police management as well as the police ministry should really consider such, to say, look, the case of Sergeant Nkosi, where he was really mentored and he had access even to the late deputy president. So these are the challenges that are confronting those that have to make decisions as well as implement recommendations going forward.
This week has also seen Diane Kohler-Barnard saying that there is a personal vendetta dating back to when she was at the public protector. And she when she lodged a complaint with the public protector. Talk to us about then how the committee will navigate personal squabbles that are brought to the committee to either defend oneself or advance a certain narrative.
Yeah, well, remember, these are, committees constituted of many political, MPs, of which then they have to bring the balance of, the interests of the country against, political squabbles or, personal vendettas. She did make mention of that to say that she also complained about, the demeanor of General Mkhwanazi. So I think it is very much important because so much is at stake to say that, well, could we bring the past into the future, or maybe now to check whether what happened in the past, could it be, clouding the current process? I think they will try, to remove the emotions from, the processes. General Mkhwanazi did well, as much as other individuals still feel that, he overstep his boundaries, but we could not know what is happening now. So, whether he's got, ambitions, whether he's got whatever issues, but at the end of the day, he provided with a platform for us to be able to know the extent of the road. So I think the ad hoc committee will bring this balance into perspective to say that, well, here we are working for the interests of the country, and they have to sift between emotions as well as, those personal squabbles.
Prof, would you say that there's growing resistance then by witnesses to appear before the committee? We saw in the case of Brown Mokgotsi and Paul O'Sullivan, who cited security concerns. Do you think their reasons are justifiable, or is this just a growing trend of witnesses using security as a means to avoid accountability?
Well, the reason why, people like Patricia Mashale are somewhere hiding elsewhere because, for various reasons, people, they are skeptical in terms of the adequacy of the state to be able to, to protect them whenever they come forth, to be able to provide with security. But for them, for Mokgotsi to come at Madanga Commission, so probably then the ad hoc committee should have some lessons, in terms of what to put there. But they might have cases, even though, at the end of the day, they will have to testify, whether it is virtually or, at ad hoc in person. But what is important, we need their evidence. So as like what the Speaker of, the Parliament did not agree with what the chairperson, provided to say that they have to submit, the two. But what is important now is to afford them, maybe also to explain to Mokgotsi what is it that the state can provide so that they can meet halfway. Because at the end of the day, we will want to, hear whether he will be consistent with his testimony provided at the Madanga Commission. So virtually, maybe then it seems like he might, get away with certain questions because, it is much easier when you interview a person, person and eye to eye, then you'll be able to look at body language and all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, because they don't have time, so the 20th of February is close by, they will have to probably allow them to make submission virtually.
Prof, I mean, you mentioned that they could appear virtually, and it also has me wondering about why then would the committee push for Mokgotsi and O'Sullivan to be subpoenaed when their own terms of reference allow for the two to appear virtually? Is it just purely what you mentioned, a reading of body language and just a sense of kind of understanding what one or the other party are saying when it is a personal meeting?
Well, it could be that, or it could be probably also the ego of ad hoc committees to prove a point to the two, to say that they're in charge and these two individuals cannot dictate terms, to the ad hoc committees. But at the end of the day, it is about information that we need to be able to get, so that it can inform the recommendations, to Parliament. So I think it is important that they should really bury their, because the speaker indicated that the ad hoc did not exhaust all measures to ensure that indeed these individuals will be safe if they appear in person. So it means that the ad hoc committee, despite forcing the two to appear in person, it could mean that they did not do the background as well as the homework to ensure that the appearance of the two will be without challenges. So hence we talked earlier about that witness whose testimony is questionable, so meaning that they are under pressure, the ad hoc committee, but they also need to put their house in order so that those that are outside and are forced or subpoenaed to appear before them, all necessary measures and tick boxes are done so that then, whoever comes there, especially the two gentlemen, so they can truly, understand that, it is a requirement for them to appear. But if then they've got some justification, remember what happened with Mokgotsi. Mokgotsi, whether he staged his, that attempt where there was shooting on his body, on his car. So is something that is debatable, but it is necessary for the state to say that we have done our background checks and then all measures are in place for this to appear in person. In a case where they are not sure, let them allow these individuals to make submission virtually.
Prof, there also have been assertions or suggestions, rather, that the Speaker's decision not to subpoena the two is a calculated move to ensure that the inquiry ends before that 1.6 billion rand secret fund names are read into the public record. What do you make of that?
I've got no say to that, unfortunately. So.
All right, you don't want to get yourself into any trouble. I understand, but you did speak about the looming 20th of February deadline. That is a real concern. I mean, just taking a look at the fact that the likes of Mokgotsis and O'Sullivans will not be appearing in all likelihood, whether virtually or in person. Is the ad hoc committee then at risk of producing a lame duck report?
Well, they have done what is necessary. Remember, they also allow any member of the public to come forth to make that submission. We had, the side of Mokgotsi at Madlanga Commission. So, I don't think he would have come to give something extraordinary based on what he submitted. He was elusive. Most of the questions he could not answer, and some, of course, people view his appearance as, a stunt, maybe, for him to be popular. We are not sure in terms of Paul O'Sullivan, if then he would have been secured to make submission virtually or in person. Probably it could have been then, give more, meat to, what else already been submitted, even though, members of the public are a bit fatigued now in terms of explosives as well as counter allegations which have been submitted now. But it will be interesting to hear the side of Paul, Sullivan. So, but Mokgotsi, well, whether he comes or not, I think we already know what is it that will be his standpoint.
All right. I mean, that's interesting. Do you think that they need an extension? They have still to hear from the president, whether that will be in written form or whether it's going to also be a in-person appearance remains to be seen. Do you think that they need another extension?
Well, it is important that they be given extension, even though we are talking about money. But at the end of the day, if witnesses who came to the ad hoc committee explain that infiltration of the subs has been systematic for over a period of lengthy many years, and Paul Sullivan has been mentioned several times of someone who with so much power, to be able to direct the operations, to such an extent that even, I peed, then there are those fingerprints of him, directing the activities. Remember also of, his association with, Mr. McBride. So it will be important that, the president provided with extension, for the sake of having adequate information. We can be emotional to say, well, there is a waste of money, but we need that information. Lest that we come back and revisit the process to say maybe we're hasty or maybe we're emotional. But I think, at the end of the day, we need all kind of information, but there's still, that kind of, a leeway, or maybe if then this particular individual, the two individuals could be allowed, to come. I think that it will be important for the president, to allocate a bit of maybe an extension of 10 days, will not really do that much harm, provided that certain information or that is yet missing, should come. For me, it is important that Paul Sullivan should testify because, his name has been mentioned several times on all platforms. So he needs to be able to account to what he has been alleged or been, these allegations against him. So it is important.
Professor Jacob Mofokeng, thank you very much for your insights this evening. It is very late on a Saturday evening. Thank you.